Godzilla King of the Monsters review. Bigger isn't always better. For more information, to consent and proceed, click continue. Godzilla King of the Monsters. Warner Brothers and Legendary. Warts and all, Godzilla King of the Monsters is the biggest movie of the summer. That's not a box. For what it's worth, it's a more surface-level entertaining movie than Gareth Edwards' Godzilla, but you'll miss the sense of scale and Spielbergian awe of that 2014 flick. King of the Monsters. The plot involves an eco-terrorist Charles Dance kidnapping Dr. Emma Russell Vera Farmiga and her daughter Millie Bobby Brown in order to procure a device that can essentially talk to the various titans that are either still in hiding or being kept at bay in government facilities. After the initial no fault to Chandler, who is perfectly fine, but Mark Russell is a literal walking/talking embodiment of the whole phenomenon. His character has, now that the pesky human drama/plot stuff is out of the way, how is the film as a spectacle? Well, yes, the monster fights are mostly in rainstorms, blizzards, and fiery wreckage, but you can still make out the beats and choreography. This isn't quite, it's not apples to apples, but Godzilla King of the Monsters makes a Faustian bargain, not unlike what we saw with Justice League, The Incredible Hulk and Man of Steel, offering more crowd-pleasing and general audience-pleasing action movies while losing some of the nothing else like this distinctiveness and mythic awe of the less well-received by consumers incarnations. King of the Monster. All of that aside, it looks great, it sounds great, I wish I had seen it in IMAX, and it's my son's new favorite movie of all time. If you like what you're reading, follow @Scott Mendelson on Twitter, and like the Ticket Booth on Facebook. Also, check I've studied the film industry, both academically and informally, and with an emphasis in box office analysis, for nearly 30 years. I have extensively studied the film industry, both academically and informally, and with an emphasis in box office analysis, for nearly 30 years. I have extensively
Raindrop, drop top, smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park,